Firstly, I want to say to you that this is not an investment site. This is just lifestyle, and we all have different lifestyles. If you cannot afford to put that money on your front lawn, burn it, and not cry, don't invest it. Well, I thought I'd give you a real feel for this particular one. If this was a movie, we'd call this AMC 3, the Phantom chairs. Now, if you've haven't had a chance to look at the previous videos, take a look back at the 2 previous videos, and that will give you a bit of update as to what this one's about. So what has happened now, we now move on to the more serious stage of why this situation has come up on us and what the opportunity is for those of us who are just guppies with the potential of becoming whales. Now, let's continue with our scenario where Buddy has bought sold the chairs, and he's now waiting for the bad summer to buy back the chairs cheaper. So what these individuals have done, greed has set in. So things worked for them. They had their own way for a number of years, and things are working so well for them. This time they thought they'd be a little bit more clever. What they've done, they've began to sell chairs that let's call them phantom chairs. They don't worry about whether the chairs exist or not. They have just decided to take pre-order. So they are now selling chairs into the next summer, and they're telling folks you can pre-order your chairs. So they're selling them now, and they'll deliver them at a much later date. However, with chairs, that's one thing. With shares, there is a limited, counted, audited amount of shares issued to every company. So let's continue with an analogy. Let's say, for example, the same company that made these chairs, they only made a limited amount, and they're not making any more, and all their chairs are identical. So they've decided, because a few customers have raised the issue, they're concerned that there are more chairs being sold than there actually are chairs built. So the company has decided they're going to do a count of all the chairs that they have. Now, this count, it's rumored that this count will take place sometime this week. Remember, everything I'm telling you here is my fictitious opinion. Now, it's documented. I didn't just make this stuff up. I didn't just pull this thing out of the thin air. It's documented because there are guys on here that it has the graphs, the technology, the documentation that shows you where the shares are, how many shares were issued, and how many shares are in the market sold under the category as short. So, sometime this week, it is rumored that the company will count up all their chairs. And they will say, well, we made 1,000 chairs. And then they will count up all the chairs that were sold short. And it'll show they have 1,800 shares. Did I say chairs or shares? After a while, you begin to get, it's become transferable. If, as it's suspected, and if, as the documentation shows, that the hedge funds, in their smart behavior, their maybe greed behavior, have sold more than there existed. Unlike shares, there's a governing body that takes care of companies and makes sure that the behavior of all participants is prudent. Now, I have never said this in the previous videos, but just to be absolutely clear, selling short is a perfectly legal device. It's a perfectly legal investment tools that's been going on for decades. There's all kinds of tools you can use in the exchange for selling and buying, and they're perfectly legal. What is not legal are phantom chairs. That absolutely is not. You cannot be selling things that simply do not exist. There is a day of reckoning coming. Now, the parties that I made reference to, the guppies, the apes, the huge number of apes, they have decided they're holding on to the real deal. And they're going to let the parties that I call you as the hedge funds, they're going to have to show up with those things that they've sold and provide documentation that they've bought them back. This is called a position of squeeze. There is going to be a major squeeze. So far, it's estimated that approximately upwards of $2 billion with a B have been lost by those who have been selling short in an attempt to hold their position and or partially cover their position, but they have shown up almost $2 billion in losses so far. Now, here's where guppies like you and I come in. How do you take advantage of this? Tune in my next video. I will talk about that. Okay? Thank you very much.